What's up, guys? Jason from Melton Tackle here. We recently got a request in the store for a splicing video. Customer came in asking how we splice all the reels that come through here and tournament reels, everything like that. So we're going to show you real quick, run through it real fast with you guys. First thing you're going to want to have is obviously a hollow splicing needle. You'll need that one, and we really use about 3 needles in here most of the time. We have like a 50-60 pound needle that we use, 100 pound needle, and a 130 to 200 pound needle. It kind of covers you across the board. You don't have to like get super specific with it. I'll show you why in a second, how we do it, and why we only need a couple of needles. The other thing you're going to want obviously is a good pair of braid scissors. You might need some sandpaper. Most of the time we use a pretty thin grit on these ones. You're just trying to get a good taper on your mono here, and that's just so that the line seats down good. There's no sharp edges or anything weird like that. You can kind of see the taper we've already filed in here just to save a little time. Make it look nice and neat. And then we'll start off here with inserting the needle in and opening up our hollow braid. So you follow along here. Sometimes when you're entering into the braid, you might get a little difficulty at first, and then you open up your line there. You want to make sure you don't really poke out on these ones. And what I do is I kind of put a little bit, not a ton of tension, but I straighten the line out. The reason I do that is it goes through a lot neater, and you don't end up with some like weird stuff where you have slack line like this. Sometimes, you know, if I pulled some line out and it was slack down there, every once in a while you'll have a little issue where you're going through and splicing and you'll poke through kind of like that, right? You can fix that when you're in the middle of it and you're not going to, do too much damage. It's kind of like run your fingers on it. It'll close and it'll cinch down all the carriers back in that line. And then you kind of put some more tension on it and face it straight at itself and keep going. So most of this will go a couple feet into the line here before we start inserting the mono. So we'll keep going here. I'm probably going to go about 4 feet into this one. One thing I'll say is with certain types of braid companies, and especially ones that don't make their own braid and they buy it off of someone else that's making it, it's mass produced, and you might run into little tight weave spots in here. That's where machines weren't cleaned properly and they kind of jam up on you. And when they do that, they create a really ultra tight weave, and you'll usually see it'll look a darker color than all the rest of the braid. And what will happen is you'll hit that spot and it won't let you go any further, and you might only be a foot into the line, or like you could be even less. And your only way to solve that problem is to cut and restart. Unfortunately, you'll need a full new 3 feet, 4 feet of line to go into it before you're going to be able to fully run a splice all the way through, because that'll just jam up every time and cause frustration. So we'll keep going here for a sec. I'm going to go a little bit further into this one before we feed it through. Try and do it fast so you guys don't have to wait around watching a needle go through. All right. So I'll just stop right here and I just poke it through at the end, let the needle come through, and then we'll take our mono, right? You got that end that we kind of tapered a little bit, put a little rough, it's got a little rough finish on it. And then I do the same thing. Careful when you're picking up the line. Obviously you don't want to go and grab it and then like close it all back up on yourself, because you're going to have to end up going through everything again. So you'll insert this guy into here. So this one will just start feeding through. What I'm doing is, as I'm going through, I'm kind of flattening the line back out just to make sure there's no like weird spots or anything that might have gotten hung up. I got rough hands. Sometimes I'll pull fibers out, or might be like a little burr on the needle or something that like messes up your braid, and you want to make sure you've got the tightest and best connection you can, obviously. So I just kind of go through each piece of the line and feel it, and some people might not have to do that, but we go through that process to check each piece and go through it, because we don't know whether you're just fishing for fun or if you're about to go put $100,000 on the line on a big marlin tournament on something, you know, we spliced for you. And the last thing we want is anyone coming back to us saying the splice pulled. And yeah, you could also take this end of the line and have fed it through the needle. That's one way to do that also. Put the line in the back of the needle. Obviously it's a hollow splice needle, and there is a little, not sure if you could kind of get that, but there is a hole in the back of that that you can put line through. So we'll keep going into here. All right, the second half of this part of our video is going to be on just joining the line and whipping it. Here we use a whipping tool. It's called bobbin. This thing's from bow hunting. So we don't sell it here, but you can find it online at a lot of different places. We just use this because it's heavy duty and we would burn through product like crazy. We're splicing every day. The owner and the Shimano splicing kits and whipping tools we have in the store here, and that's perfect for the everyday guy to get the job done. Splice yourself, make some wind-ons yourself even as well. And then the other tool you're going to need here is some tack glue. We have these in 20 gram bottles. Basically what you're going to do at the start of here is you're going to glue down the line. We always do this part, and all we're doing is we're taking some tack glue, making a little bead down it there. Make sure we get rid of that. And then I don't want to get the camera with some tack glue or anything, mess up the lens, so we'll flick it a little bit right there, and that gets like any leftover off of there and keeps things from like kind of fraying and doing weird stuff. We'll let it dry for a sec there. This stuff literally, it'll dry in seconds, so if you get it on your fingers, don't be holding on to something too long. How we're going to start this off here, give myself a little slack. What I'll do is I'm going to go around the line here, and then I started this way. You could do a nail knot, you could do something to start here, just a small knot. I wrap. I don't do a knot, so I wrap over, and then I wrap over again a couple times here, and then once I've done so, I'll pull this back, put some tension on it, and then I'll tighten down on here a little bit, and then I'll wrap and start my wraps. And all I'm doing here is just starting to go down the line. Kind of will back that off a little bit there. You kind of see it as it's going down. It'll want to follow its own little track all the way down. You just want to kind of keep it tight, make sure there's not any gaps there or anything like that. You can kind of see it as it's going down. What I'll do once I get, quarter of the way down or halfway down, I'll take this slack line that I have there and I'll cut it. And I cut it pretty close just so it's there. And then you got a clean piece to work with, and I continue my wraps. And we'll go all the way down. Takes a minute here. Tighten my bobbin a little bit. Now once you've gotten off there, basically I've gone down and across, so you're going to have to go back up and over, and this will be the difficult part for most people, is getting it to follow a track on the way back up. And what I did there was I crossed the line over itself and I go back up it. And the only reason we're doing that right now is because I want to finish it on the braid, because if you finish a knot on the braid, it's going to hold better than if I finished it on the mono. It could potentially slip. So we'll keep going. Oop. Like I just made a little bit of a mistake there. So what you can do is you can kind of back it off and then continue on. The other thing you could do half hitches like this. You could take some 30-pound braid or something of that nature, 20, 30, 40-pound braid, and do a bunch of half hitches. That's a way to do it too in a pinch, especially you're on a boat and you're like, oh man, I got to re-whip this and I don't have a tool, or I dropped my tool through the scupper. You can do a bunch of half hitches and then glue over it and it'll do the same job. All right, and to finish, so I'll take some tension off of my spool here. I'll pull a little bit of line out, and then that's how we finish it, doing those little halfers there. And I hold my finger on the line so it doesn't start to unwind on you, but basically you'll see I'm buttoning that knot up against where I did my wraps. I'll do a couple of them here. another one. Sorry, block that from you guys. Now the last one I do is a worm knot. You got a little bit of memory in the line there. The last one will go off. So worm knot is a good finishing knot for a lot of stuff you want to butt up against. We do them at the end of bimneys a lot of the time too. It's just like another knot to secure your line together. So we'll make sure this guy, I've got it nice and tight. I'll come underneath, right? And we'll make a loop, kind of like you're doing with like an old yo-yo trick or something, you know. You come underneath. I do this about 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pull this off over to the side for a minute here. And then what we're gonna do is, see how I have this line that came through here? I'm gonna kind of hold it over here for a second. And what we're doing is we're wrapping over that line, right, with the wrap. So you're unwrapping this side to wrap it onto this side. Keep going until all these wraps are gone on that side. All right, so now you got all the wraps are undone. You got this slack line all sitting right here, right? I hold my fingers down on the line, like so. And all it's gonna do is pull all that line through. And my fingers right here are just keeping it from twisting up and doing weird stuff on you as you tighten it. So then I'll take it, I'll pull it tight. And you'll see once you get this stuff tight and you get a knot down good, you see how the braid got darker? Like it starts off as like a little bit of a red and then it gets a little darker as you pull a knot tight. Same thing goes when you're tying like RP or anything else. You know you've got it pretty well cinched once you do that. And bear in mind when you're doing this, if you are using like 20, 30 pound braid, you can break it pretty easy trying to pull a knot tight like this. So don't give it a bunch of kinetic force. Just kind of give it a nice pull and a tug till it's nice and secure. And then what you'll do here is I will always cut this pretty dang close to where I did my splice with a nice sharp blade so you're not sawing at it and doing anything weird. I'll run my last little bead down this puppy. And then let me make sure that doesn't get on the camera there. And then let that dry for a second. And this is the last step that I'll give you guys here is an option. We have some DAC wax that we'll use on a lot of this stuff. That just kind of protects it going through the guides. I mean, you've glued it twice and you've whipped it. So it, for the most part, isn't going to do anything or isn't going to come out. But this just kind of cleans it all up a little bit and gives it a little extra added protection. That glue is like semi-water soluble. So it's just there as a protective layer. And then you're off, man. That's all you need to do. You've gone into your line, remember, a couple feet. If you're IGFA fishing a tournament of some sort, obviously there's a legal limit to how far you can go into your line. You can refer to that in any of the IGFA rule books for the tournaments. If you're not, you could go as far into it as you want, just to peace of mind, it's more than anything. But like literally 3 feet, 4 feet into this line and it's not coming undone. One thing to think about when you are thinking about splicing is, you know, line poundages. This specifically was 100 to 100. You're not going to want to do like 60-pound mono into like 100-pound braid. It doesn't. It will hold if you go far enough into the line, but it's not proper. It's just not something you do. You could do 60-pound hollow cord to 60-pound, or you could do 80-80, or you could do 80 to 60. But you just want to not skip a bunch and try and put a really small mono into a thicker braid because it won't hold as well. But that is all you need to know for splicing on this one. If you guys have questions, drop them in the comments below. Or what you could do, you could come into the store or call us at any time. And you know, chances are any day we're probably splicing 2, 3, 4 reels. So if you come in at the right time, you might be able to see it done, and we can show you and tell you what we're doing. Thanks, guys.